Welcome to the Maxwell Leadership Executive Podcast, where our goal is to help you increase your reputation as a leader, increase your ability to influence others, and increase your ability to fully engage your team to deliver remarkable results. Hi, I'm Holley and Maxwell Leadership, facilitator and coach.
And I'm Chris Goede, Executive Vice President with Maxwell Leadership. Welcome and thank you for joining. Today's topic is leading beyond my direct reports. I love this. This title has everything about influence laid right in the title of it. And so once again, as you mentioned, this is coming right from the field. This is something that has been part of our coaching conversations, and it sounds a lot like a topic around 360-degree leadership. So we're going to dive into that in just a minute. Before we do, I want to encourage you to go to maxwellleadership.com/podcast. And there you can download the learner guide, leave a question. Even more importantly, if you have a topic that you'd like for us to tackle in the future, Perry would love for that as we are working over 300 podcasts trying to come up with titles. But this is what we love about coaching and facilitating, because when we're in the field working with organizations, this is what we're dealing with, real stuff. We want to bring it to you. So give us a little bit of context behind the title for today.
Yeah, it's on a coaching call with a senior leader from a major organization, and we were talking about how his leadership was growing, and he just made this kind of thought-provoking. It wasn't really asking a question. He goes, "I just wonder sometimes if my influence will reach beyond my direct reports, who all know me, because I'm working across the organization." And what he's doing is he's leading a couple of cross-functional teams in the organization with people that they know of him because of his title and his name, but they don't know him. And he says, "Is my influence enough? Will I be able to influence people on a cross-functional team?" And I thought, it's really a great question for all of us. And as you said, extending my influence beyond leading down to my team or leading up to my boss, leading across in the organization to people who don't really have to listen to you. They should, but you really want to maximize that. So that's where it came from.
Well, I love the way that he's thinking about this, because so many executives would just be like, it's command and control. I'm coming in with level one, and it's because my title. They're going to have to. But he's saying, hey, no, I'm not going to lean on that, right? In order to lead this cross-functional team, I want to increase my influence beyond what my title is. And I love the way he's thinking about it, because oftentimes these leaders, their title enters the room, enters the meeting, right?
So
before
true.
they do.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's saying, hey, before that even happens, I want to talk a little bit about how do I increase my influence and what does that look like? And so I love that he's saying, man, how do I grow my influence with my peers? And that your title has nothing to do with what's going on in that meeting.
Yeah, and I was thinking about, all influence, the way we would teach it, all influence begins with building strong relationships and getting to know people. And, practically thinking, how would you go about this with people who don't report to you, that are in other parts of the organization? And I thought, to your point just now, is that first of all, recognizing there is a power dynamic in play.
100%.
Whether you like it or not.
That's right.
They know you're an executive and they're not, and so there's going to be a dynamic. But are you self-aware of your effect on other people? So even though there is a power dynamic, when you're with people coming into the room, are you leaning on that power dynamic, or are you self-aware that may have an effect and I can be more genuine, more real? Allow time to get to know members of the team. So if you're leading a cross-functional team, they don't necessarily report to you. Can you build in some relationship building time into there? I've always enjoyed personally networking with peers and leaders from other departments. So are there ways, this is a little bit pre-work almost before you get can I build relationships and network around the organization? It may not be possible in some places, but often it is. And then, are you offering help and support to colleagues that are outside your direct team? Other things you could do that your team, maybe not even you personally, but your team could do to provide help. And so you become more of a known factor. The power dynamic is reduced. You seem like a genuine, authentic person. You really want us to win. Your influence with me is growing because I know I can trust you.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Yeah. What I love about this, again, this is a level 2 action item right here, right? Building strong relationships. having the meeting before the meeting, connecting with people, whatever that might look like. Another option is we'll move right to even level 3, and I'll use that as language, is how do you develop an expertise and credibility in that area, right? With that team so that you increase your influence, not because of your title, but because of the expertise that you have in that area and that you're an expert in that field. So just make sure that you're continuously gaining knowledge in that area, continuing to learn consistently, and then share what you're learning with that team. Share your expertise through whether it's a presentation, whether it's a workshop, maybe it's a publication, whatever it might be. Just get the word out that you understand what it takes in that area to be able to deliver.
Your competency will attract a lot of people if they think you're a valued member of the team.
That's right.
It draws that in. When I was with IBM, I had the opportunity to lead a couple of cross-functional work efforts, and it was a very matrix. It's very common now to have a matrix organization where not everybody that reported to me was on my team. I had people from all over to do that, and I learned this late, but I learned it eventually that I really need to understand organizational dynamics. What's going? Just because I run a piece of the company, I have a team and how it works. This is something you've had to do. You have us, CSG, Corporate Solutions Group, but you also are working with other parts. They don't all work the same. They don't all have the same dynamics. They don't all some of them use the same processes, but others have other processes. How familiar are you across the organization so that the worst thing you can do, it can hurt your influence, is come in with all your knowledge and understanding about one way of doing it and force that on people who have not done it that way. So aligning your projects and goals with the organization objectives, making sure everybody's in sync, and then become the go-to person for navigating the internal systems and procedures. Don't just assume that they're all the same. Understand how they work and be the navigator to get things through the system. People will then, your influence goes up because people said, well, I can trust Chris. He knows how to get things done in this company. He knows how to get things through.
I love the organizational dynamic phrase. When you're doing this, man, be curious about that. And that, right? Like, be asking questions and understand that so that you can provide to some of the points that Perry was mentioning. Well, this may be obvious, but one that we need to mention here is, man, make sure you're leading by example, right? People are watching you
all the time.
Okay, that's Perry's favorite phrase, right? All the time they're going to be watching you. So make sure that you are, as a leader, continuing to exhibit high standards and performance. Make sure you're showing, I'm willing to take on a challenge and support the organization's initiatives, even when they may not be tied directly to your personal initiatives. And then be open to feedback and continuous improvement. I think that's one of the greatest ways that a leader that has a title that goes into cross-functionally is able to gain influence, is by saying, hey, give me some feedback. What do you see that's working? What's not working with me individually as a leader or with the team?
Hey, podcast listeners. Many of you listening right now would probably love the autonomy that comes with owning your own business or becoming a coach that helps other businesses succeed. Well, we have a phenomenal strategy where you are 100% in control of your own business, earning income on your own terms, and have access to the people, tools, and resources you need to build a thriving leadership development business. When you become a Maxwell Leadership certified team member, you join a global community of entrepreneurs led by our expert team of mentors and faculty, including John C. Maxwell. You'll also get one of the top leadership certifications in the world next to your name, giving you the boost you need to get started. Visit us online at maxwellleadership.com/join the team to find out more.
You're going to increase your influence outside of your direct report. So against this cross-functional or cross-organization, communication is critical. And your ability to effectively communicate to the team is going to be the difference between their buy-in and not. I just think it's probably everything. But frequency, how often do you communicate? accessible are you for them to communicate to you? How transparent are you on what the challenges are? Where are we going? How much do you share? Various methods of communicating. A lot of it would be great if it's face-to-face, but we don't always have that. So should I be sending emails? Should I be sending text messages? Should I be recording short video messages? What is the right medium for me to communicate? And how personal can I make the communications? When it's possible and where it's possible, can I speak personally to people and let them know I see you and I hear you and I want to have this communication? But I just wonder when you think about your cross-organizational role that you have, you really are touching many divisions and parts of the business. How important is communication for you? Do you lean on that a lot?
I do. And I think that it's also one of my biggest challenges because as any of us, the more that we take on, the more that gets added to your plate, the less you're communicating proactively, and then it becomes reactive, which is not the best way to do that. Also, in this example with this coaching situation, I would also say early on that your intentionality behind communicating often and transparently and vulnerably needs to be the focus, because I think it sets the stage for them to connect with you in order to gain influence. So I think it's huge. And I would say that I love what you said, use different, vehicles to be able to deliver that. Sometimes it could be through chat or Slack and just encouraging. I'll often do that when I don't have to. Sometimes it'll be, I got a minute to record a video. Hey, thinking about your team, whatever. Sometimes I'm picking up the phone and having one-on-one conversations with individuals. And so be creative and use different vehicles to be able to communicate.
One thing I think you've done really well is if I have a Monday morning in California keynote I'm doing, I'll get a text from you saying, hey, appreciate you're out. You had travel on the weekend, sacrifice your family. Really appreciate you being out there for us, and let me know what you need. That says you know where the team's out there working. You're not really understand. You don't know who I'm talking to or where I am, but you know that I had to travel, and so by letting me know that you see me, you know I'm out there. It kind of increases that motivation and that drive to say, it was hard traveling on Sunday afternoon, getting here and going a long way, and I had a long drive and blah, blah, blah. Then, no, nobody loves me. Everybody hates me. No, they do love me. They do know where I am to do that and letting people know that you're out there. And I think the number one thing that you can do to hurt your influence cross organization is if they think, I never see the guy.
Right.
I haven't heard you heard anything from the boss lately?
Yeah.
No, nobody knows who's leading this. And they, like you said, lead by example. People are watching you all the time. If they can't see you, it's even worse to do that. So.
I had the opportunity last week. I was with an organization out in Phoenix and just went out there to spend some time with their key players in the morning. And you and I, and in this leadership bubble, we talk about the fact of, hey, you need to make sure people are seen, valued, and heard. And I said it. And I just said it in passing as I was facilitating. And one of the biggest takeaways from one of the leaders in the room was, hey, did you guys hear that? Like, what are we doing inside this team to make sure that we all feel seen, valued, and heard? And so I think it's just again, as an executive, if you're going cross-functionally, matter of fact, not even an executive going cross-functionally, if you're a leader inside an organization and you want to increase your influence, I'd encourage you to be aware of that as well as the other things. The other thing I'll say is make sure you're completing them ahead of competing with them, right? You're trying to help complete a project or a task or something for the organization. As part of that team, you're not competing with them, and make sure that they're very aware of that, because if for any reason that team sniffs out that an executive's over here or another leader's over here for something that's going to be self-gain, they're going to sniff it out. And so your motives are wrong in the first place. But don't do that just to get ahead. Make sure you're over there to help lift and rise the tide for that team itself and whatever you're trying to accomplish.
And the last thing I'll add on that is John speaks often about what your mindset about abundance mindset or scarcity mindset. Abundance, there's plenty to go around, and you're trying to help. Scarcity, you're holding things back. But really, how people view you across the organization is: are you trying to get stuff for you? Are you trying to? Motive matters, like just what you were saying. Is that people can sniff that out. They know: are you trying to be abundant and share all that you have, resources and time and those types of things, or are you holding it back just for yourself? And my final thought is: it may seem simplistic, but I'll say it anyway. Is that sometimes just being a friend to people,
that's good.
Letting the best idea win, don't always have to be your idea, letting other people share with that. And don't pretend you have don't pretend you're perfect and have all the answers. When you mentioned the word vulnerability a while ago, but just being that vulnerable, I don't have all the answers. I could sure use your help. Can we solve this problem? Being present, being seen across the organization begins to raise your level of influence. People say, that's just an authentic, real,
Right.
I just really enjoy being around you because you care what I think, you ask what I think, you share ideas, you give credit, you have an abundance mentality, you give, you don't take, and it really sets you apart from others.
Well, as we wrap up, what Perry just laid out for you was the 5 levels of leadership. And so this is real, right? No matter what your title is, no matter where you're in the organization, if you want to increase your influence, level 1 is given to you by the organization. Level 5 is given to you by people over time. All of the work and everything we've talked about here, in order to increase your influence with direct reports, I would challenge, say with anybody, is how are you connecting with them at level 2? How are you producing together, helping them win, betterment of the organization? And then how are you adding value and developing them? That's 4. So levels 2, 3, and 4 just laid out in a podcast story for you to say that's what that looks like. And so I would just encourage you to dive into that model to understand the methodology of how to do that and increase your influence. I've seen it change not only executives' presence and lives, but also personal in my family and seeing that lived out. So, man, we're just big believers in that. That's what we built this podcast off of. Continue to listen, continue to share, and we're grateful for you.
Very much so. If you'd like to learn more about our offerings, like the 5 levels of leadership or the 360-degree leader, if you'd like to get a learner guide for this episode or learn about the other podcasts in our family, you can do all that at maxwellleadership.com/podcast. You can also leave us a comment or a question. We always love hearing from you, and we're very grateful you spend this time with us. That's all today for the Maxwell Leadership Executive Podcast.
Are you ready to elevate your leadership to new heights? Join the movement towards High Road Leadership with John C. Maxwell's latest book. In High Road Leadership, John explores the power of valuing all people, doing the right things for the right reasons, and placing others above personal agendas. Learn how to inspire positive change and bring people together in a world that divides. Order now and receive exclusive bonuses, including a keynote on High Road Leadership by John Maxwell himself, and a sneak peek into 3 impactful chapters. Take the first step towards becoming a high road leader. Visit highroadleadershipbook.com to order your copy today.